President Trump's former national security advisor, H.R. McMaster, went on the Sunday shows and made the most hyperbolic and ridiculous arguments imaginable against reducing troops in the Middle East.
Afghanistan, I know you feel strongly about the conflict there and our troops who continue to serve. This week, President Trump halved the number of U.S. troop presence from 4,500 down to 2,500 by mid-January, even though violence is spiking, even though the Taliban has not cut ties with al-Qaeda. Is the president handing the Taliban a victory on the way out the door?
Yes, Margaret. In fact, what I think President Trump has done is paradoxically doubled down on all the flaws of the Obama administration approach to Afghanistan by conjuring up the enemy we would prefer instead of the actual enemy that we are facing in Afghanistan. An enemy who, if they win, if the Taliban establishes control of large parts of Afghanistan, gives safe haven and support base to terrorist organizations who want to commit mass murder against us on the scale of 9/11, we will be far less safe and vulnerable to these groups. And I think what happened is the prioritization of withdrawal over our interests led to us actually empowering the Taliban. I mean, if we were going to leave, just leave. But don't force the Afghan government to release 5,000 of the most heinous people on earth. Don't make this assumption that there is this bold line between the Taliban and these other terrorist organizations. Hey, we saw it today with these rocket attacks in Kabul and the images of hundreds of young girls fleeing these rocket attacks. We saw it with an attack on a maternity hospital where they gunned down pregnant mothers and killed infants. We saw it on the attack on the American University in Afghanistan. I mean, what does power sharing with the Taliban look like? Does that mean every other girl's school is bulldozed? Does that mean there are mass executions in the soccer stadium every other Saturday? I think it's abhorrent what we're doing, and I hope that a Biden administration will reassess based, again, on what's in it for us. I mean, Margaret, this is not a theoretical case, right? We know what happened on 9/11.
Bringing up 9/11 to try to argue we need to stay in a war that we've been in for 19 years. 19 years. Our longest war. Notice, by the way, did he explain what victory is? How are you going to ask to stay in a war, and you don't even explain what victory would be and when we could declare it and come home? He didn't answer that. Why didn't he answer that? Because he wants to stay there permanently. He never wants to leave. Because when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. This is exactly what happened in Vietnam. The military people kept telling the government, we need more money, we need more time, we need more soldiers. We got to stay there. And they went along with it for way too long. Well, now you see the same thing. These guys are not like just, totally objective, totally neutral viewers. No, they're always going to want more time, more money, more soldiers, and they're going to want to continue the war. Because this is what he does. Now, look at some of the arguments. They're fear-mongering about a reduction from 4,500 troops to 2,500 troops. That's not nearly big enough. It should be 0. 4,500, 2,500. And by the way, I like how he says, well, violence is spiking. Violence is spiking with us there. We're there. We didn't even bring them home yet. We're there. Oh, the violence is going up. Okay. We've been there for 19 years. We still have thousands of troops there. Maybe we should leave. Oh, no, I'm going to say that the reason it's going up is because we're getting out, even though we're there and it's up. He says, quote, or the question was biased. This is manufacturing consent, by the way. The question is biased in the direction of a pro-war perspective. The question was, is the president handing the Taliban a victory? Framed a question from a far right-wing pro-war perspective. There was no question about, hey, we've been there 19 years. What do you want to accomplish by staying there? Hey, this costs $2 trillion. Was that worth it? Hey, where's there a direct threat against the country in Afghanistan today? There's nothing framed from a reasonable perspective. It was all from a pro-war perspective. And then he says, if the Taliban establishes control in Afghanistan, we'll have another 9/11. The Taliban controls more of Afghanistan today than they did when we invaded. So by your own view of it, this has been a failure. The Taliban controls more territory now than they did when we invaded in 2001. And they're going to do another 9/11. You need evidence to say something like that. The Taliban didn't do 9/11. It was Al-Qaeda that did 9/11. The Taliban is a guerrilla army. They're not good. They're terrible, but they don't have worldwide caliphate goals. They're not going to do jihad and do attacks all over the West. That's not what they do. I can't deal with these people. So he's just fear-mongering about another 9/11 to try to get us to stay at a war we've been at for 19 years with no definition of victory. And then, the best part is when he's talking about there was an attack on a hospital in Afghanistan. And like, what do you want to do? You want to just let them attack hospitals in Afghanistan? As he's saying this, the first thing that popped in my mind was when we attacked the Kunduz hospital in Afghanistan. We killed a lot of innocent people when we attacked a hospital in Afghanistan. So we need to protect the people of Afghanistan from having hospitals attacked by us staying there and attacking hospitals every few years accidentally. Hey, at least we did it by accident. They did it on purpose. So isn't it better to have our accidental killing of civilians and bombing of hospitals than theirs on purpose? I mean, this is ridiculous, man. This is so ridiculous. And then he keeps bringing up the fear-mongering about the Taliban, the Taliban, the Taliban. What he doesn't tell you is the other option. What he doesn't tell you is there are warlords who we've aligned ourselves with in Afghanistan and in Pakistan. These warlords, it's documented that they've had child sex slaves. And in fact, our soldiers have blown the whistle on our allies having children chained to their beds. And you know what happened? They were dishonorably discharged, and the military said, shh, you don't talk about that. So we need to save Afghanistan from the evil, horrible, terrible Taliban and keep control in the hands of child rapists. I don't want the child rapists in control of Afghanistan. I don't want the Taliban in control. I don't want the warlords, and I don't want the Taliban. But you know what? None of it is any of my business. We got water in Flint, Michigan that isn't clean, that's still poisoning children. We have an infrastructure that gets a grade of D+. We have tens of millions of people with no health insurance in this country. What's happening in Afghanistan, in Kandahar, is none of my business, and it's none of your business. And now we're talking about a situation where the original reason they gave for going in was to kill bin Laden. He's dead. The original reason for Iraq was to kill Saddam Hussein. He's dead. We're done here. Declare victory and come home. That's it. It's over. Rebuild our own country. Focus on our own issues. Instead, we have idiots like this guy arguing, no, we have to stay there. Don't be stupid. You're giving the Taliban a win. There's going to be another 9/11. No evidence, no nothing. So we get to violate international law and U.S. law. We get to do torture. We get to permanently occupy a country. And he gets to make excuses from now until the end of time about how we have to stay there and keep spending trillions of dollars. It really is unacceptable. And then you get into the conversation of, why are we really there? Why are we really there? And unfortunately, it has a lot to do, in the case of Iraq, it has a lot to do with oil. In the case of Afghanistan, it has a lot to do with opium and a lot to do with trillions of dollars worth of mineral wealth. A lot of the stuff that ends up in your cell phone is from Afghanistan. And a lot of it has to do with combating Russia and China. We don't want them to have geopolitical dominance and to have their hands on those natural resources. They won't tell you the real part of it. What they'll do is fearmonger about another 9/11 and, oh my God, we have to protect the homeland. Is anybody really buying this anymore? Is anybody really buying this? We've been there 19 years. Al-Qaeda's in tatters. Osama bin Laden's dead. Saddam Hussein in Iraq is dead. Is anybody really buying that this is really about protecting the homeland or whatever? Bullshit. Nonsense. Trump should not only pull out, he should pull out now, and it should be no troops there, not 2,500. That's not even a withdrawal. And thank you to the shitty media for doing the worst job they possibly could. The reason why these people get hired is because they're going to ask questions like that. The default assumption, the position to this mainstream media host is, well, obviously it's ridiculous to pull out of our 19-year war, and obviously it's handing the Taliban a huge win. It's all in the framing of the question. It shows you what their beliefs really are. And they're doing the bidding of the establishment. They're doing the bidding of the military-industrial complex. And that's why mainstream media is totally full of shit. And this is why you unfortunately have to turn to YouTube shows to get the truth. You're a loudmouth, babbling YouTuber like myself gives you more truth than these multi-billion-dollar corporations looking all professional and shit. It's a joke, man. It's a joke. This is terrible. Pull out now. We're done with this.